Ready to get into this on so many fronts. Again, Alex Pavlovich, top of the hour. Mike Silver in an hour. A lot going on in the NFL that's dicey. A little bit of a dicey day in the NFL. Deshaun, Dan Snyder. That one's going to like the House Oversight Committee. Oh, it's always fun when it ends up at the House Oversight Committee.
Yeah, if your business dealings wind up in Congress, you're probably not doing good things.
You know, like I always say with sports, we're here for the fun. You know what I mean? I think sometimes we forget that. You know, it's one you can scream about the trade your GM didn't make, or damn it, Tyro Estrada dropped the ball over at second base, and that's fine. But by and large, one of the reasons I celebrate wins so much, I'm here for the fun.
Right.
And when it ends up in Congress, whoops, kind of lost out on the fun there.
Do you want Congress or confetti? What do you want in your sports?
Yeah. I'll take GP2 with a water gun.
Seriously.
That's me. That's kind of my deal on that one.
A shirtless, tatted GP2 squirting fans, or your owner giving a deposition? Which sounds like more fun to you, Mark?
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. But,
so
honestly,
rough. It's so rough.
He's I don't know him personally, but Dan Snyder is a snake oil salesman. I mean, it's time. It's time for him to get the Donald Sterling treatment.
I mean, remember when his biggest controversy was whether or not the team should change its name?
Right.
Yeah.
Those were quaint old days.
Good old days, man. Good old days where we were just yelling about a racist team name.
That's it.
Boy, it got a lot hotter than that. And Deshaun Watson, I will never settle. I will never settle because I'm innocent, and I will never... All right, let's settle. All 20 of them. Oh, and there's
not
4
all of them.
20, all 20 of those. Then there's 4 more over there.
Those are the 4 thinking, all right, you 20, go ahead and settle. Right. We're holding out for the real coin.
Oh, my gosh. Anyway, nothing but fun there. We'll get to your phone calls in just a second. But want to put this out there as well. So here's the list, okay? And everybody can start letting this percolate in your head a little bit, and then we can affix a number to it, 1 through 5. On the importance of keeping them next year. 5 being the most important, 1 meaning, doesn't really resonate with you. Here are the names: Kevon Looney,
right?
Otto Porter Jr., GP2, Nemanja Bjelica, Andre Iguodala, Damian Lee, and Juan Toscano Anderson.
Okay.
Those are your question marks for next year.
Started at the bottom because I'm here, and I'll start with Andre Iguodala. It's a 1. Thanks, Andre. And I don't want to diminish his impact as a coach, but we don't need you on the floor anymore. It's over, and that's okay. It's been an unbelievable career. You're a Hall of Famer. If you want to stick around and be a Zaza Sean Livingston figure, love to have you. You're a 1. Juan Toscano Anderson from the 95th, man, you've been phenomenal. You've been a great Warrior. You're forever a Bay Area guy, and you got your chip, but you need to go somewhere else and try to make a way for yourself. We don't have the roster room for you. Juan Toscano Anderson's a 1, and he's probably my second favorite Warrior behind GP2. I'll get to him momentarily. Bjelica, Ariana Grande. Thank you, next.
Oh, wow.
Appreciate. No, it's been great, but there's not minutes for him. You're now the 4th string center pending the draft when Wiseman comes back. Now we get into the tougher country, and we're left with Otto Porter Jr.,
GP2, Looney, and did you do Damian Lee?
Damian Lee's a 2. Your family, but you're going to be the 15th man.
Yeah,
your family. You get to stay. Your family. We need you here. If not, we're going to make sure you go with Seth. We're going to get you out with your brother Seth because family's important to us.
He badly wants to stay. He pretty much said that to us. You know, you were talking about, you get some time off. He's like maybe 10 days. He's like, I need to try to stay on this team.
Right.
You know what I mean? 3-year deal was up as soon as that parade started.
Yeah.
And so, look, family, yes. So I like that you gave him. I like that you gave him an extra point for being family. But does he feel expendable? Obviously.
Yes, not emotionally expendable, though, because, I mean,
not
you
emotionally,
think about,
but basketball-wise.
Steph's kids being able to be around their cousin, and I know with a baby on the way, I pull at the heartstrings a lot more with the kid stuff now, but something about him having the baby with Steph's sister, He's a 2, Mark. You got to keep him.
Before we get to the big 3, let me go ahead and answer those 4 as well.
Am I in the right kind of sphere for you?
You're in the neighborhood, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to give Andre a 2 instead of a 1. Almost out of a few things, one of them just being respect for what he has been to this dynasty, and also because of how many players I heard point to him and say, you helped me through this, you helped me through that. We watched him even in GP2's ear right there in the final game of the NBA Finals. Stay in there. You got to do this, you got to do that. So he was dialed in. Maybe not on the floor, but he was dialed into the team, and he tweeted out at SportsCenter right before the parade, what, I can't run it back? I think we're all assuming he's going to retire.
Right.
Maybe he's not, and if he's not, is there some sort of minimum contract value to having him there? I could see it. I could see it. I'm not like
Vetman 2.0.
I'm not married to it, but I'll give him a 2.0.
All right.
And not a
All
1. Damian Lee, same thing. I like that you give him 1 point up for being family, so we'll give him a 2. Nemanja Bjelica, as much as there were times where he disappeared for a week or two, there were also some really key moments there. So could you replace him with someone else? Absolutely, but I'm also going to put him at a 2.
Man, I wish I had you as a teacher.
JTA is the one that I hate to say I'm going to put it at a 1 because JTA, we love the guy. Man, he knows how to party. Man, he knows how to do an interview. And man, the ties to Oakland and just Warriors Junior camp just make you feel every single warm fuzzy that's out there. And I love all that. But is there any basketball reason you can think of why it has to be him and not someone else? I have no problem if it is him, whatever final spot on the roster for veteran minimum that you want to hand it out. If it's him because he knows the system, great. Let it be him. But if there's another spot where he can make $1 more and that's what he wants, man, I'd pat him on the back and say, go get it.
Of course.
Okay, big 3. Let's go Otto Porter Jr., then GP2.
Makes the most sense.
And then Kevon Looney. What numbers are you putting on those guys?
Otto Porter Jr., you get a 3. And it's not to say that you weren't impactful in stretches, but I thought about this on the drive in. Shout out the metering lights being set for Glacial this morning as I sat there. He was probably the 8th most important player in the playoff run. If you ranked all the Warriors who contributed, I would put him at 8th, and then you get into like Moody and Kuminga 9, 10, whatever. But Otto Porter Jr. is replaceable. He's a good 3-and-D guy. He was a real solid starter. He started in the NBA Finals. But I think that ultimately Jonathan Kuminga can grow into and take on some of the role that he provided you. So I have Otto Porter Jr. at a 3.
I like your 3. I like your 3 a lot. I'd love to have him back. But Otto Porter Jr., we forget what a name he has been in NBA circles. Like, I'm going to have a hard time buying that, especially after this performance. He fought through injury for this team. He hit big shots.
Yeah.
My gosh, he hit big 3-pointers.
In the finals.
Yeah, there were big rebounds. Yes, there are times where you looked at his foot and you went, Mike, you
Which
look,
one?
You're not even 30 yet. You look really kind of, right? You look old at times. But I have a hard time buying that some team is not going to put some coin at the feet of Otto Porter Jr. No pun intended.
Yeah, pun intended. Actually, that was great.
Thank you.
You tied it together quite nice. I think you're right about that. He's a good, solid bench player, 3-and-D guy, and somebody who obviously can be a contributor on a championship team. So I don't want to diminish his impact with the Warriors, but when you start to look at the roster and the long-term needs, I don't know if Otto Porter Jr. is as high on the list as our next player, Gary Payton II.
Before we do that, can I real quickly mention, do you know what Otto made this year?
He probably made like $7 million.
2.3.
Oh, that's it?
That's it. So that's why, that's my concern on Otto. Would love to have him back.
Yeah.
Somebody's not going to beat that.
You would imagine they would.
Somebody's going to beat that.
And, with a 3-year deal or whatever.
Yeah, all right, go ahead.
GP2, I've got him at a 4. And it's not that he isn't an absolutely unbelievably great defender and a unique defender, a guy who can just energize or bunny you not 94 feet the entire game. But I think about the growth of Moses Moody and the minutes that he can he can start to play. He's not the defender that GP2 is yet. I don't know if he ever will be, but I think he provides a little bit more of a two-way threat on the floor. And I think, to your point, Gary Payton is another guy who might be looking at a bigger bag elsewhere. I want to keep him. I'm just not desperate to keep him. I have him at a 4.
I think that's perfectly stated. We'll change his nickname this offseason to GP4 because he's a 4. And,
nice.
and the reason for that is basketball-wise and emotional. Let's not forget, of all these guys we're talking about, I mean, Looney's been here for a long time, but this guy's on a 1-year deal. And look at what happened to the relationship between him and the fan base in that one season. Somebody who was cut from the roster, showed up the next day and said, can I come back and just, play basketball? And then ended up on the team, takes us through this journey, becomes elite defensively, works on a jump shot to where he can knock down that corner 3, high-flying dunker, so a great finisher in transition, but then also the guy who took the shot from Dylan Brooks and rallied the entire locker room around that moment. And so in some ways, I think even helped this team emotionally in his absence, and then fought his way back on a 6-week injury in 4 weeks to get back on the floor, not just get back, but contribute greatly in the NBA Finals, and then show up with a water pistol.
Yeah.
I mean, he did it all. He did it all. You're right. You can't just have him at any cost. And he's one of these class. I have no idea what the market is going to be on GP2.
Yeah.
If it's reasonable, then match it. And please get him back. If it gets out of control, then good for him. Good for him. And they showed in the other series without him that even though they love him and he's a big piece, they can also win without him.
And he's the kind of guy, though, that can be good for the 82 games, the regular season, but also for the 16 wins you need in the postseason, because you never thought he's unplayable, even though offensively he's not necessarily the biggest threat. It was almost at the point where they had to get him back because Boston was such a problem with Tatum and Brown offensively. You needed that second elite perimeter defender to be able to lock it down. So I wanted to put him at a 5, but honestly, I think when you look at the long term and also for Gary, I have him as a 4.
All right, so nobody's gotten a 5 yet. Does anybody get a 5?
One guy gets a 5.
Okay.
And he's number 5.
I'm with you.
It's his number.
Yeah.
He's a 5. He wears 5. He's a 5. It's Kevon Looney.
Number 5.
The reason why he gets a 5, and it struck me, is he's only 27 years old.
Crazy.
He's a baby.
Yeah.
Feels like he's been here forever. Now, he's not a actual baby, but with the fitness that he's acquired, his body's in better shape than ever. He was able to avoid injury. The guy played 104 games, Mark, in a singular NBA campaign, and what he does for this team. What he does for any team would obviously be good. He's a smart player. He's a great screen setter. He'll do the dirty work. He can rebound. He can guard 2 through 5 in spots. He can switch. He can play zone. He's just the greatest guy. But what he does for this team, I don't think you could replace him because they know him so well. And he's the perfect guy for this team.
By the way, he's so young, in fact, that he's actually not even 27
He's
yet.
only 26.
He's 26.
Oh, my God.
He's turned 27 next year. Not until February will he turn 27.
Damn.
He has just completed a 3-year, $14.4 million contract. I think he'll get more. I think he deserves more. But almost has a little Draymond in him where I think the league might go, look, he's solid, but he's that good because of his surroundings on some level. If we suddenly give him $10 million a year, is he going to come in and be this huge interior presence for us if we're the Detroit Pistons or something like that? I'm thinking probably not. So he's more valuable to the Warriors than he is to another team. And the Warriors are more valuable to him than another team because it clearly raises his brand. It raises everything about him, his basketball life, because he is with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and being that guy. Now, he knows the system so well. He provides stability, not knowing exactly what James Wiseman is going to do and who he's going to be this year. So for those reasons, I think he is not only a 5, he's priority 1.
Right.
He's priority 1 this offseason.
And I think we ranked it appropriately, which is Looney, then Payton II, and then Otto Porter Jr. And for the rest of them, I think it's really kind of just a pick and pop of what works. I don't think that Bielitsa will be back. The interesting one for me is Damian Lee because of, how much does he provide comfort for Steph, not only on the court, but off the court. Family's important to the Currys, and, whether it's Aisha and Sadell and the rest of them, to see him elsewhere, I don't know what effect that would have on Steph's off-court life.
Yeah, I'm with you completely on what this whole thing looks like in the offseason. We shall see. Alex Pavlovich, our Giants insider, is 10 minutes away. I have the quickest what are you doing, so let's hold it for a second so that we can get Filmo Mike in here, one of our favorites on Willard and Dibs. Hey, Filmo Mike, what are you doing? What's going on?
Oh, man, I'm just chilling, man. Chilling on my off day. And I must say, I'm going to give y'all some credit. You feel me? You guys, your chemistry was building up. You guys sound amazing on the radio, man. Y'all got one hell of a roster on 95.7 The Game. You feel me? But I just wanted to say, Bonte was getting towards, I think he feels like the Giants have always had like some type of stars on their team. And even though they didn't win the championships, a lot of the times, with Bonds, of course, and whoever else, they had stars even in 10, 12, and 14. You had real personalities. You had a chemistry. You had a dynamic to that team where they had great coaching, great defense, clutch hitting. But with this team, you really don't see that. And so I think he's getting to it like that. The history of the San Francisco Giants has been star charismatic players throughout the history. And the platooning, I think he feels like it's almost like a small market approach when we're a big city or a big area. Now, when it comes to who we going to keep, I say we keep GP2 and we keep Looney if we can. We probably won't be able to, but those are the two main players I said we keep. If Damian Lee got to go, I don't really think Steph is tripping all like that on Damian Lee, but I would love to keep Damian Lee. I think he's a lot better than what people give him credit for.
Phil Mike, thanks for checking in with us, man, and for your very, very kind comments. That's
I think
awesome.
You just made a promo, Phil Mike.
Yeah, exactly.
I think you're, listen to the next promo from Brian Ratto because that was a strong take.
Hosts will listen to what you have to say when you start out with that. That is for sure.
Lead with a compliment or a Brian in Palo Alto, and you get an extra 20 seconds.
Can I say this real quick about his Giants take? And it's not that I don't hear. I mean, I get it. Oh, they platoon this, platoon that. I'm all about winning baseball games.
Does it work?
I also think here's what we forget. So we look back on 10, 12, and 14, and we go, Lincecum, Kane, and Bumgarner. We had stars. Were they? Stop and think for a second.
Well, they pitch every 5 days.
Do you think that nationally people were like, well, Matt Cain. I mean, our team needs a big personality like Matt Cain. They're stars because you look back on them and remember they won rings. And oh, by the way, only Madison Bumgarner was a key piece to all three.
Right.
There were times where the other two were unpitchable to go ahead and grab what we've been calling the Warriors for the last few weeks. The Giants back in 10, 12, and 14 were not made up of big names.
Is Hunter Pence a star? Or Pablo Sandoval?
They are here.
The only one is Buster Posey.
And even he is not someone who had a Bryce Harper, Fernando Tatis style of an imprint across the country and across the league.
Brian Wilson.
I mean, they're stars to you because they won. So if these guys win, you'll feel the same.
Yeah.
I promise you. I promise you will.
And baseball is one of those games where you don't necessarily have to have stars in order to win. You just have to be able to churn the lineup, turn it over. And the platoon thing, I don't love from the standpoint of, when you're a kid, you knew the starting lineup of your team day in and day out. And this lineup, you don't even know who's on the roster anymore. But my thing, it comes down to just three little words, Mark. Does it work? Does it work? 107 wins last year. It didn't work in the postseason. Okay, something to watch. So far, so good this year. If it doesn't work again in the postseason,
then?
Because I don't know if the platoon thing does work in the postseason. It does if your platoon guys play great.
Right.
But
if they get hits.
Right.
Yeah.
So that to me is where this all gets settled.
And I think that's a very, very fair question. All right. Alex Pavlovich is just a handful of minutes away. Very, very quick, okay? Gosh, we're late. What are we doing?
Seriously.
Have a lot to say.
My only weapon was my mouth.
But they just have one big question.
What are you doing right now? What are you doing right now? What are you doing right now? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
I mean, above all, in life, is there anything better than providing a smile for somebody else?
Feels good.
That's it.
That's why I joke around a lot, Mark.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it?
I like when people laugh.
You like to run material,
Just
do you?
call me Dibber
And
Claus.
I hate arguing. I just hate arguing.
Do you?
Yes.
I mean,
You guys were triggering me this morning in my childhood.
I don't like. To me, spirited conversation and arguing are two different things. Like, does anybody?
Fine
I wonder if
line.
our listeners do you all think Bonte and I are mad at each other?
No.
That's not an argument.
It's just it was an argument.
It's a spirited conversation.
It was more than a spirited conversation.
All right. Anyway, I would put a smile on your face by doing this. You got to go check out my IG story. Okay, you can go to MT Willard, and it will put a smile on your face. I found yesterday the worst parking job
I saw
that anyone has ever done in the history of mankind. They almost made it to the white lines. Not those kind of white lines. You know, the ones in the parking lot. There's a
Grandmaster
grocery
Flash.
store, right? White line. Yeah. Go watch. I'm telling you, just go look at it. You'll be like, what are you doing?
It looks like an abandoned stolen car. It's just left.
Look, I'm not one of these people that, you missed the lines. Like, I get it. You're in a hurry. You need to go grab some vegetables and get home for dinner. This is the most unbelievable thing you will ever see. You gots to go check it out, and you'll say, man, what was that person doing?
Yeah.
What are they doing?
It's not even trying anymore. They've given up.
Alex Pavlovich, our Giants insider, 5 minutes away. Mike Silver in 35 minutes. This is Willard and Dibbs on 95.7 The Game.